There were 3 days between Jesus' death and resurrection. So where did he go? What events transpired within that duration? Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the 4 Gospels unswervingly attest to the fact that Jesus endured crucifixion for approximately 6 hours before relinquishing his life. In those crucial, waning moments, he emphatically stated, "All has been accomplished," a proclamation chronicled verbatim in John 19 verse 30. Soon after this, he gently lowered his head, releasing his spirit to the cosmos. His earthly form remained affixed to the cross but for a brief duration, until Joseph of Arimathea, with the collaboration of Nicodemus, ensured its respectful removal. The sanctity of his lifeless body was preserved by wrapping it for interment. Merely 3 days subsequent to these events, the miraculous transpired. His body and soul, once severed, were harmoniously reintegrated, heralding his awe-inspiring resurrection. Following this, Jesus graced his devoted followers with his divine presence, initiating these celestial encounters with Mary Magdalene. His terrestrial journey culminating, he elevated to his ethereal abode, the heavens. Nonetheless, an intriguing query has over time aroused much curiosity. What indeed unfolded during those 3 days post his demise and prior to his resurrection? What paths did Jesus tread? What missions did he undertake? This narrative endeavors to shed light upon these mysteries, while the Bible, particularly the Synoptic Gospels, remains reticent on an exhaustive account of his undertakings during this period. These days are allegorically referred to as the harrowing of hell or the descent therein. The primary emphasis of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's Gospels remains concentrated on the events culminating in Jesus' crucifixion and his subsequent resurrection. The interim phase largely draws from theological conjectures and age-old traditions as opposed to explicit biblical testimonies. Yet, deciphering this critical juncture remains within our grasp. A pivotal clue to Jesus' whereabouts during these 3 days is embedded within his crucifixion discourse. Scriptures detail that Jesus, during his crucifixion, was flanked by 2 convicts. One of these beseeched Jesus to reminisce about him when Jesus ascended to his kingdom. This plea is documented in Luke 23, verse 42. Jesus' response, profound in its simplicity, was, "Verily, I pronounce, this day, you shall accompany me to paradise." This evidently alludes to Jesus' journey to paradise or the heavens post his demise. This aligns seamlessly with his parting declaration entrusting his spirit to God, synonymous with an oasis of unadulterated joy and eternal adoration. Yet, another riveting revelation emerges from 1 Peter 3, verses 18 to 20. "For Christ suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to guide you to God. Death embodied him, but the Spirit vivified him. Upon revival, he proclaimed to the incarcerated souls, the erstwhile rebels during the prolonged patience of God in Noah's era, when the ark was in construction. In this epoch, a mere 8 souls were salvaged through the deluge." This scriptural passage is susceptible to dual interpretations. The primary one posits that, during the period between his demise and resurrection, Jesus ventured into Hades or hell to address the confined souls there. These souls, from this standpoint, could be construed as demonic or human, or perhaps even the fallen angels who defied God's edicts. Lucifer's deceit swayed them into rebellion against their creator. Noah's deluge is indicative of transgressions predating Noah's era. The scripture, however, remains non-committal on Jesus' precise message to these incarcerated souls. Nevertheless, it appears implausible that his message was one of salvation, given that angels lack avenues for redemption, as elucidated in Hebrews 2, verse 16. A plausible theory is Jesus heralding his conquest over Satan and his cohorts. Thus, from this vantage point, Jesus' descent into hell was to proclaim his triumph, signifying his overarching victory over mortality and the devil. An additional biblical testament offering insights into Jesus' activities during these 3 crucial days can be found in Ephesians 4, verses 8 to 10. This states, "Upon his exalted ascent, he ensnared a multitude and bestowed gifts upon humanity. His ascension implies a prior descent to the terrestrial depths. The one who descended is identical to the one who ascended, surpassing all celestial realms to pervade the entire cosmos. Paul, referencing Psalm 68, verse 18, affirms that post his triumphant ascent, Jesus liberated numerous souls. This is perceived as Jesus, having secured our salvation, guiding the redeemed from paradise to their eternal heavenly abode. This cohort encompasses stalwarts like Abraham, David, Joshua, Daniel, Lazarus, and all those justified by faith, leading them from the realm of the departed to their renewed spiritual domicile. Another interpretation of Ephesians 4 suggests that in the interlude between his demise and resurrection, Jesus subdued and incarcerated our ethereal adversaries, signifying death's demon and the malevolence of sin. His ascent, thereby, marks his return to the heavens, triumphant in his divine avatar. This viewpoint finds resonance in Matthew 12, verse 40, which equates Jesus' 3-day sojourn to Jonah's experience within the massive fish. In conclusion, precise events spanning those 3 days remain veiled in the scriptures. Diverse Christian doctrines interpret these differently. Yet, we find solace in Jesus' affirmation, "Today, you shall be with me in paradise." This anchors our belief that, post his declaration of victory over mortality and fulfillment of redemption, he journeyed to paradise. Your attention is invaluable. Your thoughts are more than welcome in the comments. Feel free to extend your support through liking and subscribing to us. May divine blessings accompany you always.